Time for another YouTube exclusive here at Always College Football. Today, we are building the perfect quarterback for 2024. And there's a lot of good options too. Now, granted, a lot of the talk this time of year centering around the NFL draft and all the guys that departed our sport to go to the next level. We wish them well. We can't wait to see what Jaden Daniels does, Caleb Williams does, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, all these other great players, JJ McCarthy, Drake May, a ton of guys going to make a lot of money at the next level, but there's a lot of really good ones coming back. The sport is in really good hands, so it was hard putting this list together, but we did our best. All right, we'll start with the arm, which I think, for all intents and purposes, that's pretty important quality for the quarterback spot, is it not? I'll take Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck is arguably the most talented passer returning in the sport this year. Now, does that necessarily mean he has the strongest arm? He has the quickest release? He has all these other things. Like last year, arm would have gone to Joe Milton at Tennessee. But if you look at his efficiency, it was not what you wanted it to be. Had a lot of big misses. It's great that you could throw it 90 yards. That doesn't always lead to completions, and it certainly doesn't lead to 90-yard touchdowns. So if I'm going to have just flat-out arm talent across the board, I'm taking Carson Beck of the Georgia Bulldogs. Decided to return this year. I think would have been a top 10 pick, but I think next year he's certainly has the inside track to possibly be the number one overall pick in 2025. With accuracy, I'm going with Shedeur Sanders. Now, there are quarterbacks returning in the sport that actually had a higher completion percentage. Noah Fafita had a higher completion percentage. Carson Beck had a higher completion percentage. A handful of others had a higher completion percentage. But if I look at the throws that Shedeur Sanders was able to execute and the pinpoint accuracy, oftentimes under duress, it's hard to lose sight of the way he was able to place the ball. Now, he finished the season last year somewhere in the vicinity of 69%, but you also have to factor in some throwaways. He had to throw away a bunch of balls because the pocket was not always clean and the receivers were not always open. So I think if you were to look at adjusted completion percentage and big-time throws, there's an awful lot to like with what we saw from Shedeur Sanders. So accuracy, I'm taking the Colorado Buffaloes quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. Anticipation, meaning a guy that's going to get rid of the football in a very, very quick manner before the receiver's probably out of his break. And I think the best in the game returning this upcoming season is Quinn Yates of the Texas Longhorns. This was a huge part of his development from year one as a starter in 22 to year two as a starter en route to a playoff berth in 2023. He was getting the ball out quicker. He's one of the fastest in the country as far as getting the ball out of his hands. And he's oftentimes getting it out downfield before the receiver even breaks free. I think his ability to anticipate windows, his ability to anticipate when the receivers are breaking open is the best in the sport. And if he can just continue to progress. Now, a new cast of characters at wide receiver, so he's going to have to develop that rapport, that chemistry, and that trust this offseason. But if I can have one quarterback that has to anticipate a throw, I'm taking Quinn Yates of the Texas Longhorns. If I'm going legs, I'm taking Jalen Milroe for the Crimson Tide. Now, he's worked mightily on becoming more well-rounded, becoming a better passer, especially in the intermediate. He's always been a great deep ball thrower. But there's one thing that this guy does that just very few guys can do. And there's plenty of great runners in the sport right now. There's a bunch. But there's nobody that is as electric with the ball in their hands as Jalen Milroe. Now, you're going to look at the rushing numbers from a year ago and think, well, hang on a second. Those rushing numbers are not what you would come to expect from a guy with the most dynamic legs in the game. Well, factor in the sacks. There were 40 sacks taken last year. Those account for rush yardage lost. So he's electric. Put the ball in his hands, make him pay. And if you look at his numbers down the stretch, those last 4 or 5 games of the regular season, that was him at his best as a dual threat quarterback. So I think Jalen Milroe's legs make him almost impossible to defend. And that's the part that I would certainly want to incorporate in the perfect quarterback here in 24. As far as playmaking ability, meaning everything breaks down, nothing's right, receivers aren't open, you got to scramble, you got to make a play, you got to run around, you got to create, you got to get crafty, scramble drill, movement in the pocket, adjusting your body, adjusting your arm, playmaking ability. I'm going with Cam Ward at Miami, formerly of Washington State. What a huge addition for Mario Cristobal. And while everybody's going to look at the spring game performances and the 300-plus passing yards that he put on the board and the clear rapport that he's already developed with the wide receivers there at Miami, this guy, when things break down, big things happen. Now, at times, maybe he's tried to do too much, tried to put the team on his back too much, and hopefully in this offense, led by Shannon Dawson, the offensive coordinator, he'll be able to stay in the pocket a little bit longer. He'll be able to get the ball out a little bit more on time. But when he runs around and when things break down, he can buy enough time to allow guys to uncover, and that can often lead to big plays downfield. Experience is also, I think, a huge part of trying to figure out the perfect quarterback this upcoming year. And there's only one guy to look to when it comes to experience. Now that Sam Hartman's departed the world, Stetson Bennett's departed the college football world, those guys were both well into their 20s when they left. Well, a guy that's also well into his 20s, that's Dillon Gabriel at Oregon, formerly of Oklahoma. The guy's seen it all. He's seen every type of defense that you could possibly see at UCF, saw every type of defense you could possibly see at Oklahoma, had a great year last year, beat Texas, and put the team on his back against the Longhorns, took him down the field, game-winning touchdown with experience. I know there's not a guy that's more experienced for the most part than Dillon Gabriel. Highly effective, highly gifted player. As long as he stays within the structure of the offense, he'll do a great job at Oregon with a great supporting cast around him. And then finally, I'm going to go toughness. Okay? And this is going to be interesting too, because we haven't seen him play in a while. And there were moments last year where you thought he was going to be cleared, but he wasn't cleared. I'm talking about Cam Rising at Utah. And I have to go back. I'm just going to remove 2023 from my brain. I'm going to remove that from my brain. I'm going to talk about what he did when he was on the field leading Utah to back-to-back Pac-12 titles in 2021 and 2022. The guy's going to run over players to get tough yardage. The guy's going to hang in there, take a big hit, and deliver the football with accuracy. So toughness and mental makeup, Cam Rising to me is a guy that in his time, like I said, removing 23 when he was lost for the season because he tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl the year before, in 2021 and 22, he still built up enough equity with me to have him on this list as one of the best components here in 2024 as far as the quarterback makeup is concerned. Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.